Do you remember Michael J. Fox, the young star who once outran time on screen? At the height of his fame, while the world called him the kid who could do anything, a quiet tremor in his left hand revealed a truth he could no longer escape. Parkinson at just 29. How do you keep moving when your own body begins to fail you? This is the untold story of the man who refused to break. It happened in a small, quiet examination room, far away from movie sets, studio lights, and the roar of fans. Michael sat across from the neurologist, expecting an explanation for the strange twitch in his left hand. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe stress. After all, he had been working non-stop, carrying Hollywood's expectations on his shoulders. But the doctor didn't smile. He didn't soften the blow. Instead, he delivered 6 words that shattered everything Michael thought he knew about his future. You have young-onset Parkinson's disease. For a moment, the world fell completely silent. Michael stared at the doctor, waiting for a laugh, a correction, anything. But the room stayed still, except for the tremor in his fingers. A tremor that suddenly felt louder than his entire career. He drove home alone that day, gripping the steering wheel with a hand that no longer obeyed him. Traffic lights blurred through the windshield as a single question echoed in his mind. What happens now? This was not a scandal, not a headline, not a Hollywood twist designed to entertain. This was the beginning of a private war, one he would fight in silence for years. A battle against fear, denial, collapsing identity, and the terrifying possibility that everything he had built might disappear before he turned 30. Long before the world knew his name, before the fame, before the time-traveling DeLorean, Michael Andrew Fox was just a small boy growing up in a family that moved so often he never learned how to stay still. His father, a Canadian Forces sergeant, was transferred from base to base, dragging the entire family across the country. Each move meant new faces, new rules, new hallways to walk through with the uneasy feeling that you didn't quite belong. For most children, that kind of instability could break their confidence. For Michael, it became the first forge of resilience. He was tiny, far smaller than boys his age, so small that teachers often mistook him for being years younger. Kids teased him. Some ignored him entirely. Others underestimated him to the point that he felt almost invisible. And yet, whenever life pushed him to the background, he found ways to push himself forward. At 12, he discovered that when he stepped on stage, the world stopped looking at his height and started listening to his voice. Acting wasn't just a hobby. It became the one place where size meant nothing and imagination meant everything. While most children his age were out riding bikes or playing hockey, Michael was rehearsing lines, mimicking accents, and studying actors far older than him. There was a fire burning in him, quiet, steady, stubborn. His mother, warm and supportive, recognized that spark first. She encouraged him, even when the future looked unclear. His father, disciplined and stoic, gave him something equally valuable: a deep understanding that life rarely bends for anyone, so you must learn to bend without breaking. It was a worldview that would one day save Michael's life. Yet beneath the supportive household was a subtle truth he carried everywhere. He was not built to be a star. Not physically. Not statistically. Not according to the expectations of Hollywood. But ambition didn't care about statistics. When he reached his teens, Michael realized school could not contain him. His teachers worried. His classmates didn't understand. And his guidance counselor famously told him the acting dream was impossible. Your chances of making it are 1 in a million, he said. Michael smiled. I'll take those odds. He dropped out early, not because he lacked intelligence, but because he knew his path was elsewhere. Acting was no longer an experiment. It was a calling, a magnetic pull he could not ignore. He began landing small roles in Canadian television, each one adding a layer of confidence. It wasn't much, barely enough to survive, but it was a beginning. There is a moment in every great story when the hero stands at a crossroads. Stay in the comfort of the world they know, or leap into the unknown. Michael chose the leap. At 17, with a few dollars in his pocket and dreams far larger than his size, he left Canada and drove to Los Angeles. The car rattled. The map was unreliable. The future was completely uncertain. But the boy who had spent his life being underestimated was ready to challenge the biggest city in the world. Los Angeles greeted him with the same coldness it showed most dreamers. Casting agents dismissed him instantly. Directors said he was cute but too small, funny but not leading man material. Some told him outright, "You'll never carry a Hollywood movie." But this wasn't news to Michael. He had been hearing versions of that sentence his entire life. The world kept insisting he was not enough, not big enough, not strong enough, not star enough. Yet every doubt thrown at him became another brick in the foundation of a resilience that had been building since childhood. He took odd jobs, lived on cheap food, slept on a friend's couch with his belongings stuffed into a single duffel bag. Hollywood didn't roll out a red carpet for him. It barely held the door open. But Michael wasn't looking for permission, only opportunity. And opportunity, as it often does, would come quietly. But before it did, the world kept testing him, shaping him, preparing him for a future only he could see. His childhood had already given him the two things he needed most: the strength to endure and the imagination to believe. Those qualities would one day help him survive something far darker than rejection. Something no teenager driving into Los Angeles could have ever anticipated. Los Angeles had a way of stripping dreamers down to the bone, and Michael felt that truth the moment he stepped into the city. It wasn't the warm, sunlit Hollywood from postcards. It was a maze of casting rooms, in different faces, and whispered judgments that cut deeper than he expected. He arrived with hope. The city greeted him with silence. During those early months, Michael lived like many young actors chasing survival. He worked odd jobs, lived off cheap fast food, and slept on a friend's worn-out couch with a single duffel bag at his feet. Nothing felt stable except the belief, fragile but stubborn, that something would eventually give. Every audition felt like a test he was designed to fail. He was told he was too short, too young-looking, too gentle-featured to play anyone important. Directors glanced at him and moved on, as if they could already predict his ceiling. There were weeks when he didn't hear a single callback. Some nights, alone in a small apartment that didn't even have a proper kitchen, he wondered whether he'd made a mistake leaving Canada. But quitting wasn't a language his childhood had taught him. He learned to navigate the casting circuit with a kind of quiet persistence. He showed up prepared, even when no one seemed to care. He studied the actors he admired and rehearsed long after others went home. He sharpened his instincts, his timing, his comedic intuition. He may not have been the biggest presence in the room, but he often became the most memorable. And then, almost imperceptibly, the tide shifted. In 1982, Michael was offered an audition for a new sitcom called Family Ties. The network initially rejected him. They thought he was too small, too young, too unknown. But when producer Gary Goldberg saw his tape, he sensed something others had missed. A spark that couldn't be taught, an authenticity no acting class could manufacture. Michael was cast as Alex P. Keaton, a role that would forever reshape his life. From the first table read, he electrified the room. His delivery, sharp and quick like a reflex. His expressions, precise yet unpredictable. His comedic timing, almost unervingly natural. It wasn't long before he became the beating heart of the show. But success came with a cost. As Family Ties soared in popularity, Hollywood began circling. Casting directors who once brushed him aside now asked for meetings. Studios saw something bankable in his charisma. And though he was still physically small, his presence had grown colossal. Yet one of the biggest turning points came disguised as chaos. He was offered the lead role in Back to the Future, but only after another actor was fired 6 weeks into shooting. It was an impossible situation. Michael had to shoot Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future overnight. He slept 3, maybe 4 hours a night, racing from studio to studio like a ghost lit by adrenaline. He was 23, exhausted, and working beyond the limits of his body. But he was also living the dream he had chased across a continent. Those sleepless nights forged the version of Michael the world fell in love with. The quick-witted, unstoppable young star who could carry an entire movie on his shoulders. What people didn't see was the cost. The aching bones, the ringing exhaustion, the subtle tremors beginning to whisper beneath his skin. Michael didn't know it yet, But the life he had sacrificed everything to build was about to collide with a darkness he could neither predict nor outrun. By the mid-1980s, Michael J. Fox had become something Hollywood hadn't seen in years. A phenomenon that felt both unstoppable and completely effortless. He wasn't just popular. He was magnetic, the kind of star whose presence shifted the air in a room. Audiences adored him. Studios trusted him. Critics praised him with a tone that hinted they knew they were witnessing something rare. Back to the Future exploded across the world like a cultural supernova. One moment he was the young actor sleeping on a borrowed couch. The next, he was Marty McFly, an international icon whose image appeared on posters, lunchboxes, magazine covers, and bedroom walls from Los Angeles to Tokyo. Children wanted to be him. Teenagers imitated his swagger. Adults saw in him a spark of youth they thought they'd lost. Michael had become the face of possibility. Yet the true miracle was how he sustained it. While most actors were lucky to carry one hit project, Michael carried two: Family Ties by day, Back to the Future by night. His schedule was the kind of impossible grind that would break almost anyone else, but he approached it with a mix of humility, adrenaline, and the stubborn belief that he had already survived harder things. During interviews, he joked about his sleepless schedule. He smiled for every camera. He shook every hand with a confidence that felt invincible. But beneath the surface, the strain was building. From a distance, his rise looked perfectly polished. Awards, Emmy wins, sold-out fan events, talk shows begging to have him on. But up close, fame was fast, loud, and relentless. His life became a blur of flashing lights, roaring crowds, constant travel, and scripts piling higher than he could read them. His body, small but fiercely determined, absorbed every hit. And yet Michael didn't slow down. He couldn't. Not when the world wanted more of him every day. He starred in film after film: Teen Wolf, The Secret of My Success, Light of Day, each showcasing a different shade of his range. Hollywood loved him because he was charming, relatable, and effortlessly genuine. There was no ego, no pretension. He was the kind of star who felt like someone you already knew. But even as the world praised him, Michael carried with him a quiet truth. He had built his entire career by outrunning doubt, fear, and limitations. Every success felt like another victory against the expectations that had once told him he wasn't big enough, wasn't strong enough, wasn't leading man enough. Now he stood at the top of the industry, proving all of them wrong. Still, the higher he rose, the more fragile the altitude became. During long nights on set, Michael sometimes felt small flickers in his left hand. Tiny tremors he dismissed as exhaustion. He had pushed his body harder than most people ever would. Surely this was just fatigue catching up. He told himself he would rest after the next project, after the next award season, after the next press tour. But rest never came. Hollywood wasn't built for slowing down, and neither was he. At least, that's what he believed then. What the world saw was a man at his peak. Confident, brilliant, unstoppable. What the world didn't see was the shadow beginning to form behind him. A whisper, a warning, a quiet rebellion within his own body, one that would soon challenge everything he had fought so hard to build. For now, though, he stood in the blinding glow of fame, unaware that every spotlight cast a darker silhouette behind him. The applause was loud. The success was real. The world adored him. And Michael, still young, still hungry, still racing forward, had no idea that the greatest battle of his life was already beginning inside him, cell by cell. The world saw a star at his peak. But behind closed doors, Michael J. Fox was discovering a truth that terrified him more than any bad review or box office failure ever could. The tremor in his left hand, once a tiny annoyance he blamed on exhaustion, began to grow bolder. Some mornings, it whispered beneath his skin. Other mornings, it roared. He would wake with his fingers trembling violently, unable to stop them no matter how hard he focused. The body that had carried him through sleepless nights and endless shoots was no longer obeying him. And he didn't know why. At first, he hid it. Actors are trained to pretend. Stars are taught to smile. And Michael, small, scrappy, unbreakably optimistic, had spent his life convincing the world he could do the impossible. But this was not a challenge he knew how to outrun. During takes on set, He learned to disguise the tremor. He shoved his left hand into his pocket. He held props in oddly tense grips. Makeup artists powdered trembling skin without asking questions. Directors, blinded by his talent, rarely noticed or chose not to. But in the quiet moments when the cameras cut and the crowds disappeared, the truth shook him harder than the tremor itself. Something was wrong. Very wrong. In 1990, during the filming of Doc Hollywood, the tremor became impossible to ignore. Michael's body, his instrument, his livelihood, was glitching, misfiring, betraying him. His wife, Tracy Pollan, noticed the strain in his eyes before he said a word. He smiled at her to keep her calm. The smile didn't reach his eyes. Weeks later, sitting in a medical office far from the glow of fame, Michael heard the 6 words that shattered his world. "You have young-onset Parkinson's disease." He was 29. 29. Actors twice his age weren't hearing that diagnosis. People in their 70s were. The doctor explained the progression, the symptoms, the future, the uncertainty. Michael nodded, but his mind drifted as if he were floating outside the room. Parkinson's was not just a condition. It was a sentence, a lifelong shadow, a slow erosion of control. And for someone whose career depended entirely on precision, timing, expression, Parkinson's was a thief coming for everything. For weeks, Michael told no one. He woke up each morning hoping he had imagined it. But the tremors always reminded him it was real. He began drinking, not for pleasure but for silence. Alcohol blurred the tremors, softened the fear, numbed the panic clawing at his chest. Nights became hazy, mornings brutal. He hid bottles from Tracy, from friends, from himself. He would wake on the bathroom floor with no memory of how he'd gotten there. This was not the Michael fans adored. This was a man drowning in a secret he could not bear to face. He kept acting, kept smiling, kept performing the role of Michael J. Fox, unstoppable actor, even as his real identity fractured beneath the surface. Between takes, he clenched trembling hands. During interviews, he locked his body into stillness through sheer willpower. But willpower cannot cure biology. There came a day, one he rarely talks about, when he held his newborn son, Sam, in his arms, only to feel his hand shake uncontrollably. He feared he might drop his own child. The terror was primal, immediate. His son looked up at him, eyes wide and trusting, unaware that his father was fighting to hold on with every ounce of strength he had left. That night, Michael sat alone in the living room long after Tracy had gone to bed. The house was silent except for the tremor tapping against the arm of the chair. He stared at his shaking hand and felt something inside him crack. I wasn't afraid of dying. I was afraid of not living. He was losing himself, not physically, but spiritually. The man who once ran across time on a movie screen could no longer trust his own body to stay still for a single moment. Parkinson's didn't attack with sudden force. It eroded, chipped away, wore him down. He forgot what it felt like to wake with a calm body. He feared public events, not for the crowds but for the possibility that someone might notice the tremor he fought so hard to hide. Years passed in a haze of denial. He kept filming movies, though every role required new tricks to camouflage the symptoms. Camera angles adjusted. Props grew larger so he could grip them with both hands. Directors quietly shortened takes. Some days, he cried in the car before walking on set. He was living 2 lives. The star everyone saw, and the man who feared everything he was would soon be taken away. The drinking worsened. Tracy confronted him gently at first, then urgently. She loved him fiercely, but she could see him disappearing into the bottle. Michael shrugged it off, made jokes, minimized the issue. Humor had always been his shield, but now it was cracking. The turning point came one morning when he woke on the floor of the bathroom, cold tile pressed against his cheek, a spilled bottle beside him. He didn't remember collapsing. He didn't remember drinking. He didn't remember anything. He lifted his head, tremor raging in waves, and whispered the words that would mark the beginning of his transformation. I need help. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't heroic. It was raw, small, human, and it saved his life. Michael entered therapy, quit drinking, and began the excruciating process of confronting the truth he had avoided for years. He learned that fear grows in silence, but shrinks when spoken aloud. Tracy stood by him, unwavering, her strength anchoring him through the storm. Still, the hardest moment was yet to come: telling the world. When he finally went public with his diagnosis in 1998, the reaction stunned him. Instead of pity, he received admiration. Instead of fading, his voice grew louder. He became not a fallen star, but a symbol of resilience, vulnerability, and the courage to stand in the light with one's scars visible. Yet the disease continued its slow, relentless march. He experienced stiffness so severe he could hardly move, pain that knifed through his joints, tremors that shook through interviews, speeches, even moments with his children. And still, Michael rose each day determined to fight. Hollywood saw the aftermath, but only his family saw the cost. There were falls, dozens of them, moments when he hit the ground so hard the sound echoed through the room, bruises from unseen wars, surgeries, recovery, more surgeries, more recovery. But every fall carried the same ending. Michael stood back up. What began as a disease became a teacher. What began as fear became purpose. What began as darkness became the force that would redefine his legacy. And yet, at the height of the struggle, Michael understood one profound truth. The truth I could no longer run from. Parkinson's wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a new life, one fueled not by invincibility, but by gratitude, grace, and the unshakable belief that meaning can rise from the deepest pain. Recovery did not come to Michael J. Fox in a single, triumphant moment. It arrived quietly, soft as a breath, fragile as a decision, and then grew stronger each day he chose to keep going. Sobriety was his first victory. Not glamorous, not cinematic, but essential. He traded the numbing haze of alcohol for the sharp, uncomfortable clarity of reality. It hurt. It exposed every fear he had buried. But clarity also came with something unexpected. Hope. Small at first, then gradually louder. Therapy became his lifeline. For the first time, he spoke openly about the terror that had lived inside him for years. The sessions were raw, messy, honest. Some days he left feeling lighter. Other days he left shaking, emotionally more than physically. But every conversation pulled him one step further away from denial, and one step closer to acceptance. And acceptance, he learned, was not surrender. It was strength. The true turning point arrived one quiet afternoon when Michael watched his son play in the living room. Sam was laughing. Big, carefree, beautiful laughter that filled the house like sunlight. Michael's hand trembled as usual, but for once, he didn't hide it. He simply watched his child and thought, "This is what I want to fight for." Not fame, not image, not the illusion of being invincible, but moments like this, real, unpolished, human. Soon after, he made the decision that would redefine the rest of his life. He would go public, not for sympathy but for truth. When he finally revealed his diagnosis to the world in 1998, the response stunned him. Fans didn't walk away. They didn't pity him. They embraced him. They saw not a fallen star, but a man brave enough to stand in the spotlight with his vulnerabilities exposed. Interviews shifted from scripted jokes to heartfelt conversations about resilience and mortality. Strangers wrote letters thanking him for giving them courage. People with Parkinson's reached out, saying his honesty made them feel less alone. For the first time in years, Michael felt a sense of purpose that ran deeper than acting. He wasn't hiding anymore. He wasn't drowning. He wasn't pretending. He was rebuilding, piece by piece, truth by truth, moment by moment. And in that rebuilding, Michael discovered a version of himself stronger than anything fame had ever made him. By the time the world learned the truth about his diagnosis, Michael J. Fox had already begun crafting a second life, one not built on box office numbers or ratings, but on purpose. In 2000, he founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation, an organization dedicated to Parkinson's research. What began as a personal mission soon evolved into the largest nonprofit funder of Parkinson's studies in the world. Scientists who once lacked resources suddenly had support. Patients who once felt invisible suddenly had hope. Michael, once defined by the roles he played, now became defined by the lives he uplifted. But the disease did not loosen its grip. It tightened. The tremors grew stronger. Stiffness made simple movements feel monumental. Pain became a familiar, unwelcome companion. He fell, often, sometimes in public, sometimes alone. Each fall reminded him of the fragility of his body, but also the resilience of his spirit. When he stood back up, and he always stood back up, it became a symbol, a message louder than any speech he ever gave. Strength is not the absence of struggle. Strength is choosing to rise anyway. Even as Parkinson's progressed, Michael kept advocating, kept speaking, kept showing up. His optimism wasn't naive, it was deliberate, a discipline forged through decades of fighting battles nobody else could see. He often repeated a line that would become his personal creed. With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. He meant it. He lived it. In interviews, his voice sometimes faltered, his movements stiffened, but his conviction remained sharp. He joked about his falls, encouraged others to find humor in hardship, and reminded the world that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a bridge. His family became his anchor. Tracy, unwavering as ever, helped him navigate the physical and emotional storms. His children grew up with a father who taught them, by example, that courage is not loud but steady. And though acting gradually became impossible, his influence only grew. Books, speeches, campaigns, global recognition. He stepped away from the screen but stepped deeper into the lives of millions. Today, Michael's legacy is not just the beloved characters he portrayed. It is the revolution in Parkinson's research, the community he helped empower, the hope he brought to people who once felt hopeless, the reminder that a diagnosis may change your path, but it does not have to define your story. His life's second act, unexpected, unplanned, uninvited, became his most important one. And in that act, Michael J. Fox transformed from a star into a beacon. In the end, Michael J. Fox's story is not one of perfection or invincibility. It is a story of a man who lost control of the one thing he depended on most, his body, yet found strength in places he never thought to look. He learned that courage isn't loud, and resilience isn't glamorous. Sometimes courage trembles. Sometimes resilience falls. But both rise when called upon. His journey reminds us that life does not promise stability. It does not promise fairness. What it offers instead is a choice. The choice to keep showing up, even when the ground beneath you shakes. Michael did not rise in spite of Parkinson's. He rose with it, beside it, through it, turning pain into purpose and purpose into legacy. His story teaches us that the darkest chapters can become the most transformative if we have the heart to face them. And as the world continues to watch him walk, stumble, speak, laugh, and live with remarkable grace, we are left with a question, one that echoes far beyond his life into ours. So what's your story?